What is up, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Coach Ken from Giving It a Try, and if you're checking out the video here, I appreciate it. Give it a thumbs up. You'll be on the YouTube channel. If you're just listening to the audio, you're probably checking it out on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. If there is a platform of your choice that you can't find it on, let me know. All you have to do is search Giving It a Try in your favorite podcast platform. Welcome back. Tonight we have a quick little episode. I've been getting a lot of questions about this, especially as an endurance coach, and between the swim, the bike, the run, all the other things that we train for out there. One of the big things, one of the outlying factors, one of these other big block philosophies, like I like to call them, like we have our nutrition, we have our sleep, we have our fueling, our pre-workout, intra-workout, post-workout. But there's a big component that comes along with endurance training if you're looking for this longevity and sustainability piece, and that's strength training. Yes, strength training. We're going to dive into some of the myths in strength training and kind of how you have to set it up. I just get that question a lot. It's very hard for people to start a strength training program. It's very hard for them to keep it. And especially as our season develops, as we get in and out of building for these A races, like how do we supplement and change up our strength training as we go about that? Now, let's just take a quick background on my background in strength training. If you listen to some of the first podcast episodes of my journey just with fitness and getting into endurance sports, I really started, my drive used to be quite a few years ago now, really like my late 20s. So we're talking 10, 11 years ago, was strength training. It was getting stronger. I was always a hard gainer in the gym. It was always tough for me to gain muscle. It was always, tough for me to just kind of bulk up no matter what I ate, no matter how much I ate. And so I switched to a different type of training philosophy at the time, which was this like strong lifts philosophy. I was doing a lot of 5x5 training, doing Olympic lifts, trying to see how, high I can bring my bench press, my squat, and my deadlift and bring those 1 rep max numbers up. And that was a great community that I was around at the time. And it really, for quite a few years of doing that progression and working through different training programs to break through these plateaus to get me stronger. And I'll even fast forward a little bit to some of the myths that we're going to get to, even amongst all of that in my strongest times as a human, when I was able to pull, push, and squat decent amounts of weight for my body weight at the time. I was really strong, but I wasn't bulky. I wasn't overly, gaining weight. I wasn't, the atypical bodybuilder if you would have looked at me and been like, oh, that guy works out a lot. But I was strong. I was able to move weight. I was healthy. I was able to just move a lot of weight at the time and be strong. And then through other things, then I got into endurance sports. But I like to go back to those roots from time to time. And when I talk about strength training, that's why I have a little bit of a passion for the strength training, is you can be strong and really nip these misconceptions in the bud of like, I'm going to get bulky, it's going to slow me down. And we're going to talk about the importance of the strength training, the type that you're going to do. And then once we're all said and done with this here, I'm working on a special gift for everybody, which I will dive into when I get towards the end of this podcast. So hang out with me for a little bit. So that's my background with that. That's kind of our purpose of this, is just giving you some pointers, some guidance throughout the year, and try and answer some of the questions that I've gotten, whether they're from my coached athletes or just from people that listen to the podcast. Because I always say, if there's a topic that you want me to do a deep dive on, please reach out and then we'll dive into it. So that's what we're going to be doing tonight. So let's really jump into this. We already touch base on some of these things, and we just have to really hit them hard from the beginning, because it's going to be on a lot of people's minds as they listen through this, especially if you are an endurance athlete. Is the misconceptions here is strength training is going to make you bulky and it could slow you down, especially for women. It's a typical thing that they think that if they go to the gym, they still lift the weights, they're going to get bulky. They're going to look like all these people on Instagram and all these, more muscular women or social media figures out there. And I can tell you that's not really the case. There's a lot more going on out there than we want to talk about tonight. But that is definitely one of the misconceptions with that, especially, and there's different ways you can structure your strength training program. We're talking about tonight strength training, not muscle building. We're talking about just getting stronger as a person and as an athlete. And the other myth that you always hear all the time, that I hear from people when I start talking about it, is endurance athletes only need to focus on cardio, right? If we want to be better, faster, swim, bike, run, we got to swim, bike, run. We got to do that more. And that is true to a certain extent, but there is more to that. We do need, as we kind of break the body down during our swimming, biking, running, we want to have a strong structure that we're doing that to. If we're not balancing that with proper loading on our ligaments, joints, and tendons while we're not out there doing our swim, bike, run, then we're going to come up with some problems and we might have to take some setbacks. So that's why this is a very important talk tonight. Now, let's talk about some of the facts, the key benefits here of incorporating strength training. Again, strength training, we're not talking about muscle building, we're talking about strength training. And now, could there be some muscle gain with that strength training? Of course. But we're really talking about a focused approach here at becoming stronger so it can support your endurance goals. I can assure you, though, that you will have a performance increase. That could be power output on the bike, power output on the run, your sprint speed, your top end speed, and your economy, just your ability to use oxygen better. And there are some numbers out there, could be as little as 2% up to 8% with strength training per some studies out there. So there is a benefit. To me, that's a tangible benefit. If you're doing your training right, especially if you're somebody who's very dedicated, very consistent with their training. If you're on like a Training Peaks program and you're just hitting green box after green box after green box, and you're able to supplement that with some proper strength training, you're going to be a lethal weapon out there in the endurance world. And you're going to be able to do this for a very long time. And that's why you do see some people be able to be in endurance sports for quite a few decades, is because they are building a solid foundation outside of their endurance endeavors so that they can continue on to do that. And that leads right into, it's because of injury prevention. That's one of the big things. It's strengthening our muscles, our tendons, our ligaments, and it allows our body to handle repetitive stress. Endurance training, no matter what you're doing, whether you're a competitive swimmer, or just recreational swimmer, that's what you like to do, triathlete, cyclist, runner, whatever it is out there in the endurance world, in that endurance space, it's repetitive motions. Like, especially if you're training for longer distance races, you could be going out there and putting in training sessions that are hours long. A brick session that is 3, 4, 5 hours long, prepping for an Ironman out there. That's just a repetitive motion. Think about the revolutions on the bike that you're going to put your body through in a 2-3 hour workout, or in a long run, a 2 hour long run. The amount of just turnover on your feet, the amount of steps. I know, like, look at some of the, I do some like 50Ks. I like that distance. At the end of the day, when I look at my steps sometimes on some of these races, like it's 30, 35, 40,000 steps. That's a lot of repetitive motion going on to the body. So that's why we need to have a strong structure and strong connective tissue and strong bones, tendons, ligaments, everything, our whole supportive structure to be able to handle that over and over and over again. And what that's also going to do is, if you can develop this strong foundation and hold on to it during your training cycle, is it really does help fatigue resistance. So if you're someone out there who has been in this endurance space for a little bit, you've been training, you're consistent, you're dedicated, but you're starting to notice like a little stall and a plateau and just you building your fitness. It could be because you're not supporting it with the strength training that you need, because if you were to add that in, or were adding it in, it's going to help that fatigue resistance. It's going to delay your muscle fatigue during these long efforts. So you're going to be able to train a little longer. It's also going to enhance your recovery. So you're not going to feel so wasted the next day or 2 days later when you have to head out for your next workout. And it's just going to, your body will be able to handle that training load that much better, and you will feel better, especially as you get deeper into these training plans. Once you're in 8, 12, 16 weeks deep into one of these really big training blocks, is you'll start to notice you just feel better between sessions. So if you're someone who really hasn't done this, this could be a very big limiting factor that we do want to work on. And we will talk about how we can work it in, when's the proper time to start doing this. And you'll also get something as for the people that do strength training throughout the year. We'll talk about some tips in a little bit on how to structure it in and around as you start to build a little more volume, because you don't want to hold on to all of this volume and strength training and then all this volume on your endurance build a couple weeks out from your race, you may just, just be putting way too much fatigue on your body. So we do want to break it down and kind of periodize it properly as we're going through our training block here. So now let's talk about it here. Let's get into the nitty gritty here, the principles of strength training for endurance, because it's a little different. It's definitely, you have to determine, what are my goals? Do I just want to look good, or do I want to perform well? Because there's two definitely different training programs that are going to go about all that. If you're looking to build some muscle, you want to look good, you want to build some aesthetic muscle in the off season, then you're going to have to look into some of these hypertrophy plans, which are bodybuilding, muscle building. There's certain rep ranges and certain workouts and certain ways you can load and have that volume and training for that. But what we're talking about here is performance training, strength training for performance. That's what we're going to be talking about. These are going to prioritize functional movements that are going to mimic our sport-specific patterns. So we are going to be doing some things out there that are going to help our swim, our bike, and our run in a totality. We don't really want to just go in there and start doing bicep curls, lat pull downs, just really basic, non-large compound movement exercises when you are out there unsupported when you're swimming, biking, and running, basically, where you have to work your entire body. So if we work in some of these exercises that are going to be kind of mimicking what we're doing in these sports, but loading the body in a controlled manner, that's when you're going to see the benefits that we're talking about here. So we definitely don't want to, again, prioritize that functional movements that are going to mimic our sport-specific patterns. So if you're specifically a runner, we might tailor that a little bit just specifically because all your volume and training is running. For triathletes, we have that nice mix, that cross-training mix of swim, bike, run, so we can have a little more stretched out difference in our strength training and what that looks like from workout to workout. So I get this a lot, like, how much time do I have to dedicate to this strength training? Because that may also be, I'm already getting my runs in for the week, 3-4 runs a week for marathon training, or, hey, I'm training I got a half Ironman coming up. I'm in some base building here. I'm getting 2 swims in a week, 2 or 3 bikes, 2 or 3 runs. Like, I got to do my stretching. I got to do my mobility work. I got to catch good sleep. I still have to work and maybe support a family. How do I fit all this in? So we're talking 2 to 3 sessions a week, 30 to 45 minutes each. Like that could be amazing results with that time. And I can probably bet that we could find 2 or 3 30-minute windows, as you'll see, because a lot of this can be very easily done in a small space at home within your busy week. Again, I also made a episode about sacrifices. It depends how much it means to you, how much you want to be more put together as an athlete, healthier, more sustainable, and check that longevity box for yourself. So if it is that important for you, you will find the time to add in these sessions. They can be piggybacked after some of your other sessions. For myself, if I get my run done in the morning, then I can get to work a little earlier and hit the gym there. I'm going to be able to get a 20-30 minute session in before my workday starts, and I'll just stack them like that. And then that gives me a very long period of recovery before I have to hit my next session, which is probably going to be the next morning. And now movement-wise, when we're talking about movements, we're talking about compound movements. And what that means is multi-joint exercises. You could have isolation movements, which would be standing there, curling a dumbbell. That's an isolated movement. You're just isolating one muscle group, your bicep, during that exercise. But what we want to do is compound movements, because that's what we are doing when we're out there performing. So we're talking squats, deadlifts, things like that, bigger movements that are kind of using a large amounts of different muscle groups and getting the best bang for your buck, so you don't have to be in there all day. And this is really the movements that we need to do to get structurally stronger as an athlete. We're also going to talk about a little bit about plyometrics, and these are fun. These are really awesome, and these are great, super awesome for endurance athletes. These are explosive movements. Let me see. That's why you hear like the plyo box at the gym. These plyometrics is an explosive movement, and that's going to boost your power. These are box jumps, bounding, side to side, skater jumps. These are things that, again, are an explosive energy. And a lot of these are not done with weights. So these are things that you can just go outside and hammer it out and get it done. Or if you have a nice area in your house where you can get this done, super awesome. And you're getting huge benefits by doing this. And we'll talk about how we're going to break that down and how often in a little bit. Also, our core stability. It's going to be, now this is essential. This is essential for posture and efficiency in our running, in our cycling. This is what keeps us in that aero position. This is what makes our back not hurt in the aero position, because if we have a strong core as we're in these aero bars on the bike, it's also going to support our back. We're not putting all the weight on our back because we have a weak core. As well with our running, if we have a strong core structure, you're going to run more upright. You're not going to slouch. You're not going to lean back into your running gait. You're going to be strong. And then when you're able to put sprints together, you're going to be able to really push yourself during these sprints and be able to keep your body stable in a way where you're going to be able to put out more power during your workouts. And then when we talk about periodization with all this, periodization, you can treat it just like you would treat your training for the year. We have different phases of training throughout the year. Early on, we're in a base build. We're doing certain things. We're keeping a certain level of fitness. We're working on some limiters in what we need to do for our endurance training. That may be if we want to get a little better at swimming, we're going to focus on maybe a little bit more swimming at that time. If we want to get a little more efficient with the cycling, we're going to work on our cycling at that time. Maybe our run form, that's the time to work on it, not while we're building volume and working on that at the same time. So, and then you would move into a building phase, building more volume. Then we're going to spend more race specific prep phase, where we're going to add in some race specific efforts, a certain time out from our race. And then we're going to be bringing it all together into a final little block of training for race day. So it does, and depending on how many races you have for the year, you're going to come up peaks and valleys in that type of training throughout the year, dive in and out of these different specific blocks of training. And then we're also going to do that with our strength training. When we're doing our base building portion of that endurance training, we can really focus and put a little more work in on really getting stronger, because we want to start our block and build of our endurance already with a strong structure, a strong body, and being able to support the training needs that are going to come along. And then with our strength training, we can kind of tail off a little bit with our building for strength, hold our strength, just do some maintenance type movements and sessions week after week. So we're not building more strength fatigue on top, because we're building fatigue on our endurance. So as our strength training fatigue was higher in the off season, our endurance fatigue may be low, but then as our endurance fatigue starts to build through these plans, we do want to cut back on how much we're fatiguing our body and just maintaining the strength that we've gained. And then as you slide on the back end of your A race and you start to recover from that, if that's the last big race of the year, same thing. We're going to slowly bring down our endurance volume and that fatigue, and then you can really get back into the progression, get back to where you were with your best strength you had for the year, and continue on from that. And if we do that cycle over and over and over again, season after season, and you're dedicated and disciplined on all those fronts, along with those other big block philosophies, that's when you really start to see the improvement season after season, year after year, race after race, and you start to get better, stronger, faster as you're out there. And this is all going for men and women. And as you see now, it's also super important for the middle-aged woman athlete, endurance athlete, to be able to keep that strong bone structure and that muscle and that strength as we progress through, because it tends to be a little more catabolic for women of that age when we are doing this endurance. Very high volume endurance training does stress and fatigue the body a lot different than men, and it will affect, and you'll have to, your hormone regulation may wind up being off. So it is just starts to kind of really beat your body down a little bit more. So if you have this good strength training, again, the fatigue resistance you're going to have, you're going to recover better, and your body's going to feel fresher and stronger after all these sessions. So it's even more super important for that. And now, how are we going to schedule these? Again, we talked about kind of how it's going to bob and weave throughout the year, and when the volume's going to pick up and when it's going to step back a little bit. But we want to schedule these strength sessions properly. If you have a hard interval session the next day, say for a run, a track workout, it may not be the best to do a strength session close in the afternoon before you're going out to do the track workout the next morning. Again, for myself, I like to just kind of get these strength sessions done, if possible, on the days that I have some of these other endurance workouts afterwards. Specifically, if you have a hard session, maybe if you can get to the gym after, that's great. Again, good time consumer, but wait, good time management. But if you can't, you might want to wait a little while. You might want to wait a few hours to start that recovery window before you do and replenish and then get in the gym later in the day. And chances are you might have a lighter workout the next day because you just had a hard workout. It might have been a hard bike or a hard run. So very rarely do we want to smash two hard workouts, a hard bike and a hard run back-to-back days. So you may have an easy recovery run or an easy bike the next day, and that's also going to help the recovery from your double session that you had the day before with the strength training. So that's how we're going to have to do that. Again, prioritize recovery. The big thing is, if you can, really 48 hours between heavier strength sessions. So if you are in that part of the year where you do have some heavier sessions, especially if you're going to hit the same muscle group, definitely like a 48-hour window. That's going to give you enough time to get the protein in that you need, get the hydration in that you need, start that recovery process. Because again, strength training is just like endurance, is we do the work during the session, but that's not where your fitness or strength is built. Your fitness, your endurance fitness, and your strength is built in the rest window. We're stressing the body, and then there is a super compensation that happens on both ends of that with your endurance and with your strength. Meaning the body will adapt, it'll repair, it'll make itself ready for that same stress that you just gave on it. And if that was a new stress, like you just added some volume or intensity to that workout, it's a super compensation factor. So the body will say, wow, that was tough. I need to build back because I need to be prepared if that happens again. So if you give that window enough time, next time you go at it, you might be able to go that 1% more. And again, then you recover. Your body goes, wow, that was hard. It was even harder than last time. I need to recover myself even better than last time. So I need to build stronger. I need to get these tendons and these ligaments a little stronger because they just put more of a load on. I was prepared for it, but it was a little bit more than I was used to, and then they'll build back better. So that's the super compensation that we're looking for with that. Now let's dive into this sample training structure that we can go through here. I do like to break it down a little bit. I like to separate things. It kind of makes things easier. In the world of gyms and strength and all that, there's a few ways you can separate things. The easiest is lower body and upper body. That is, and you also can mix the core in there as well. So you can treat your upper body different than your lower body, and then you can treat your core and stability work as well and break the body into 3 different sections. When you start like talking about bodybuilding routines or muscle building, these hypertrophy programs, then we can start breaking things down as well into upper body push movements, pull movements, horizontal movements, lateral movements. So if this is the first time you're hearing about some of these terms with going to the gym, think about just the difference. That's the difference in working different muscles. So if you wanted to hit both ends of your upper body, you would have to do a push movement and a pull movement. So a push movement could be a bench press per se, and a pull movement could be a lat pull down or a pull up. And then there's different planes of movement within those, is horizontal and vertical, meaning that yes, I can push a movement for upper body for my chest is going to be different than if I push a shoulder press. So both are push movements, but they're both in different planes. One is a horizontal movement, one is a vertical movement, but they're both push movements working different muscle groups. Same when we talk about upper body pull movements, we can break that down as well into a vertical and a horizontal movement, and it's going to work a little different. So if I do a lat pull down, I am pulling from a different plane of motion than if I did, say, a bent over row. Those are going to work different types of movements for the upper body. For the lower body, we can break things down as well. Really for the lower body too is compounded double leg movements. We can do single leg work, and we can break things up like that. And then there's also lateral movements where if you're doing side lunges versus walking or front lunges, those are two different planes of movement as well. Once we talk about core, there's two different ways we can break core down. Core could be stability work. That could be such as planks with variations. That's you holding your body into a stable position and practicing just good stability within the core. Once we work on other movements, such as say like a Russian twist, dead bugs, we're moving or leg lifts, we're moving and engaging the core rep after rep. So that's how we can break our core down into two separate categories as well. And then the fun one, which is really important to endurance athletes, is going to be plyometrics, these explosive movements. These could be many different variations using a plyometric box. You'll usually see those in the gym. They're made out of wood or they're made out of a very high density foam. These are going to develop explosive power. And there's many different variations we can use with this. And we just want to, I treat the plyometric stuff just like I would treat my speed work for endurance. Again, that 80-20 endurance, which I always talk about, 80% is the big bulk of our zone 1, zone 2, easy moderate stuff we need to do for endurance. So if you treat basically your strength training, all these other movements I just spoke about up to this point as the 80%, I would consider plyometrics fitting into that 20% because they are explosive movements. They are high energy. They are, calorically demanding and do, have some recovery, some extra recovery needed within those because it does stress the muscular system a little bit more. And then as well with these plyometrics, we're talking about some bounding type stuff. Could be squat jumps, skater jumps. These are side to side movements that work our lateral plane of motion. Super beneficial for trail runners, these plyometric movements, because that's something that's probably helped me as well. And another reason why trail running, as a side note, I believe helps me for the rest of the year. If you follow along with my journey, it's really like November through April. The last few years have put a lot of mileage in the trails and mix in some elevation and some more technical terrain. And it's not like running on the road, not at all. I mean, running on the road, you can just zone out, be very methodical with your movements, very mechanical, just step after step, like very just same form for the entire run basically. But with trails, as Coach Ryan's been on before, you got to have trail vision. And what that means is like there's left, there's right steps, you're stepping over trees. And what is all that doing? That's step ups. That's like a box at the gym doing step ups. You're bounding side to side sometimes around these routes. That's kind of like side lunges and skater jumps. So I'm kind of getting in a lot of this plyometric work during my trail running for those months. And that's why I can come into my multi-sport season feeling pretty fresh and good. And that's why I keep up with my strength training during the multi-sport season so that when I get back to the trail running, I still have a strong structure to continue on with that trail running. And the best part of some of the stuff, and let's actually we hit one thing, is upper body stuff. Again, push-ups, simple things like that, being able to move your body. Pull-ups, rows. We talked about some of the core variations. Single leg Romanian deadlifts for lower body, lunges. All those things that I'm naming right there, there's a reason why I wanted to punch those out real quick and name them, is because now you're thinking like, oh, I don't have access to a gym. What am I going to do? Is this another membership I have to do? I had to travel now. I got to go find somewhere to do all this. You could do just about everything I just said in a small space at home. Where I am now, I have a very small area to do my workouts if I have to do them at home. I mean, we're talking probably an 8x8 area that's padded, and I have a bunch of different weights there. We'll get into equipment in a little bit. and I have everything accessible right there. And then I can go outside and get some of my stuff in as well. I can get my more of my bounding in, my height jumps in, my I can go out there and do some of the stuff that I need to do that I need a little more room to do. So you don't need to have all this fancy stuff. You don't need to really have a gym, especially if this is the training program we're looking for with the strength training. Resistance bands, dumbbells. I have a whole gambit of different things. And one of the, I guess, tips and tricks about how to acquire some of that stuff is buy it secondhand. I don't think anything I have in my gym downstairs of like, you know, value, I should say, of like the weights was anything I bought new. My adjustable dumbbells, a very small package. They go up to 52 pounds, from 5 pounds to 52 pounds for a pair, and they don't take up any more than a shoebox each. Great price. Just waited and found a good deal on them. My set of kettlebells, as I found them on Marketplace, I just went and scooped them up. Weighted adjustable sandbags, same thing. It was just something somebody bought brand new and they just didn't want to use them anymore. Actually, right after the year, when COVID shut down, everybody was buying up. I mean, you couldn't even find gym stuff to buy, like new on the website. Everybody was just sold out because the gyms were closed. So as things started to open up, people liked the social atmosphere of the gyms. They started selling off all their stuff that they had bought for their home gyms. And hey, you gotta kind of reap the benefits sometimes of secondhand stuff and let people spend that top dollar first. Same thing though, sets of resistance bands. I have, push-up stands. I'm working on installing a pull-up bar outside in the next week or two and being able to get pull-ups in outside. I'm even going to install a wall ball target outside off my kid's swing set. So there's a lot of small little things that like I can build or do myself and be able to get all this stuff in. And you really just got to set yourself up for success with all this. And again, if it's a good plan, properly put out and having everything, knowing what you need ahead of time and being able to have that routine, just like your endurance training, just like that calendar you have where you're checking off all the boxes, that's what you need to do. You need to set yourself up for success in this. So let's talk about structure real quick. Like we talked about the stuff we kind of need to do, the stuff to look out for, and how are we going to break this up? Very simply, if you're not really into something right now, you got to start easy. That's going to be one of the biggest mess ups that you're going to have in all this. You're going to, even if you have weights at home or you go to the gym, you're going to get in there, you're going to grab weights, you're going to do these movements, and then you're going to be like obliterated. The DOMS is going to set in, your muscle soreness over the next couple of days is going to start affecting some of your other workouts. So what I always tell my coached athletes is I really do a back to basics, body weight stuff, starting for the first couple weeks. Just like if you haven't run in a really long time, you're not going to go out and just smash a speed workout or go run 8 or 10 miles like you were when you stopped running. You got to ease back into it. So even if you took off from strength training for a while and you were really good at it 4 or 6 months ago or a year ago, ease back into it. Trust me. It will really help that muscle soreness. Muscle soreness is not a indicator of how well you did your workout. That actually means you went beyond what your body probably should have did at that point. You have some diminished returns. You've now done a little more damage to your body than it needs. It's sending you signals like that was bad. Don't do that again. So you don't want to ever feel like really, really jammed up and sore after these training sessions. They're meant to accompany your endurance training. That's what you need to get better in. And this is a complement to your endurance training. So if I was going to do this, I would break it up into 3 sessions would be perfect. And again, I'll tell you about my special little gift I got for everybody after we run through here. But I would break it into a 3-day structure. A strength focused day where we're really working on some lower reps and lifting a little bit heavier. Then I would also switch into a power and a plyometric focus day. This is going to be some of our bounding and explosive movements that we want to get. That's going to work. This could even be like kettlebell swings, box jumps, like those more explosive type movements. And then day 3 is going to be some core work and some accessory work. Maybe we want to work in whatever our limiting factor is. If you know you have some weak glutes or hamstrings, this might be the day to do an extra set or two of those, working on those limiters, getting that core work in. That's what we want to do on day 3. And what we want to do, which I touched on a little bit, is again, progression. If you're new to this, getting back into it, start with your body weight or super light weights. You want to master your form first. If you can work on getting good form, and you'll get plenty of work out of your doing body weight movements, because if you haven't been doing it, doing the body weight movements is a step in the right direction. And then just gradually increase your load or intensity. Every 2 to 3 weeks, you be the judge of it. Same thing with your endurance training. We don't just build all the time. We do want to have our recovery windows in there. As we master these workouts and these distances, that's when we build. And so it follows a very similar training structure as our endurance training. And then we talked a little bit about the integration with our endurance training. Again, the off season, we can focus on really building strength, really getting some higher weights in there with some lower reps. And then as we move to the in season, as our endurance training is really taking off, you just want to maintain strength. You can even cut back just to 1 to 2 sessions a week, kind of, again, just holding the strength standard that you have set for yourself at that time. And another side note with all this is, just like your endurance training, super important to do some dynamic warm-up stuff before your strength training, because we don't want to get hurt. This is supposed to supplement, not be a detriment to our endurance training. So again, when I talk dynamic warm-ups, I'm talking arm circles, leg swings, moving your body, getting the muscles fired up and getting the blood flowing, and some mobility work in there. And then when we talk about as recovery on the back end of these strength training workouts and your endurance training, that's when you want to do a little more static stretching, really lengthening the muscles, maybe some foam rolling after these strength sessions. That's going to be able to get you your 5 or 10 minutes of foam rolling in that you need to do right after these 3 sessions during the week. And again, prioritizing form over weight, especially at the beginning, is going to help you avoid injury. If you need more strength-specific work, get yourself hooked up with a strength coach, someone who specifically kind of works with the endurance athletes in that field. Because if you just go to the gym, go find yourself a strength coach, and they don't really understand the demands of half marathon training, and what that does to your body, or how to work both of those in at the same time, that may be a little bit of an issue. So find a strength coach specifically that will help you with your strength and your endurance needs, and that'll be the key there. Track your progress as well, just like you track your mileage so efficiently that you do, because you always want to run more mileage. Track your progress, track your gains, track how it felt. Make a notebook out of it, and then you can say like, oh, these lunges today, or even though they were the same weight as last week, felt a little easier this week. So next week when you go to build your workout for it, you may add and go up to the next level. Maybe bring the reps down a little bit till you master your form with those weights. Increase your rep range the next workout. Again, that's progression, is you're doing a couple more reps than you were able to do last time, and you're able to track that. That will also keep you motivated and keep you with a purpose, instead of just going around lifting some weights and spinning your wheels with that. Couple common mistakes with all this is overtraining, doing too much of it. It really is just like some salt and pepper on a beautiful dish that you've already made. It's just adding to the awesome things that you're doing with your endurance training, and it's just taking you to the next level. And again, use the times of the year, like your base training for endurance, to play a little more and get a little stronger with that strength training, so you don't wind up overdoing it and leading to too much fatigue during the season. Don't neglect recovery. If you're going to add these modalities in, assess already, like, hey, am I already getting good sleep? Do I have good quality sleep? Am I eating enough? How's the quality of my food? I'm going to need to hydrate a little bit more. Nutrient timing is a huge factor in strength training. You want to make sure you're getting that quick meal in, that protein in afterwards to spark that recovery window, and making sure that you're eating the right amount of food. That might mean that, if you're going down this route and you're serious about it, might be really time to dial in your nutrition. Is it time to talk to a nutritionist who can really tell you exactly, based on your energy demands that you have through all of your training, what you really need to intake in your body, how much protein you need per kilogram or pound of body weight specifically for you and what your goals are. And again, not for muscle building, it's just for repair and maintenance and muscle preservation so that we do get stronger workout to workout. Couple questions I noted as I've had these talks with athletes in strength training in the past, and we've hit on some of them already, so we can just jam through them right here, is how do I start strength training without a gym? Well, again, I already told you, is a very small space you can set up. It can be right in your living room. Keep your stuff in the corner of the room. You really don't need a lot. Start with, again, very small stuff. Add in a couple little different things, resistance bands or adjustable set of dumbbells. That'll go a really long way with saving space. Is strength training going to make my legs feel heavy for running? No, not if you properly can recover from it. You're doing the proper volume of strength training. You're not overdoing it. You're not creating excess fatigue, and you are eating properly, the right amount, and hydrating. You will feel probably better. There will be a adjustment period, so I would not recommend, if you're 4 weeks out from your A race, to just start a strength training program right away. But you could start doing your body, adding in a little bit of mobility work if you haven't done that already, and prepping your body for the strength training that's going to come as soon as your A race is done. And how do I know if I'm doing too much? If it starts to affect your recovery, extra muscle soreness, you're starting to show up flat to your endurance workouts that you have on the calendar, that's when you got to scale it back a little bit. Maybe just go a little bit lighter, or make sure you have, or drop a session per week. Make sure you're getting the recovery that you need. You kind of have to self-assess yourself as you're going to be able to tell. It's one thing I can't tell as a coach. You know, everything gets a training stress score. I can kind of track your volume and all that, but it's very hard. I don't get the exact feedback I need back from the athlete as to really how they honestly feel day after day through their training program. So there we go. We're talking, wrapping up here with the strength training. Again, super important. If anything, I'm just trying to sell you on getting on some type of program here. It's going to boost your performance. It's going to prevent injury. It's not going to make you injury free, as in you're never possibly going to get injury, but it will prevent some of these overuse injuries or problems that you may have. And that's definitely a good thing, because if you want to endurance train, you got to just keep going after it and doing it. And if you want to keep doing it and not have to take breaks, then start your strength training, because I'm telling you, it will prevent injury. Start simple, focus on that form, integrate it with your training cycle, like we said, at the proper time of the year. And again, if you haven't been doing it, just start moving your body. Just start getting into body weight stuff. When we started with my coaching athletes last December, like off-season strength program, we had a whole month of just body weight stuff, body weight workouts, getting the body prepped. And it felt really good to go through all that. And the people that continued on with that then moved into weights and increasing and getting really strong. And some of them are really strong athletes now because they are continued on with that strength training. So again, just get after it. Start getting that one session done a week if you're not doing it right now. And then what I have, that special gift for you, is when I'm working, I'm going to try and put the details in the show notes if this is a audio podcast, and it will be also in the YouTube description. I'm finishing up a 4-week sample program based off of everything that I've talked about through this podcast on here for you as an endurance athlete, for a 4-week program of something that you can follow and then progress with and continue on with, because I feel that it's that important to an endurance athlete to have a strength training program that I want to give this back to people. So I just finished kind of finalizing the typed up version of it. I'll drop a PDF link probably onto my website that I'll be able to give you in the resource section in the notes there. And if I can get it all up in there, there's something that you might be able to look out for too, is I'll make this available as a downloadable 4-week plan on Training Peaks and put that link in there as well, free of charge for the listeners here, because I feel that strongly about having some type of strength training program that is specific to endurance. I don't want to get into the debate of other types of strength programs out there, but if you're looking for specific performance in endurance, swim, bike, run, trail run, whatever it is that you may do, you have to do some type of plan that is specific for what your goals are. If that's what you want to do, is get better. If you just want to get bigger muscles and you don't care about the performance aspect of it, you can go follow some type of program like that. And just stay and be very, very wary about these high intensity programs that are out there, these high intensity fitness clubs that are out there, where you go there and you put a sweat on for an hour doing all kinds of crazy stuff 2-3 days a week. That's not really strength training. That's conditioning work. And then if you're doing that stuff while you're trying to build for a race, when you have to hit a hard interval on the bike, a hard interval on the run, all of that high intensity stuff, including those high intensity workouts that you were doing in the gym at those fitness clubs, is all fitting into that 20% window that you have for the week in your 80-20 block of training. So you're going to be missing out. You're going to be over fatiguing the body. You're going to be creating a lot more problems than it's good for. So there's a time and a place for some of that stuff. But what we're talking about tonight is specific strength training, building for endurance sports. So that's what we were hitting on tonight, and that's what we have available for you in this 4-week plan. So make sure you get down into the descriptions down there, and then give me some feedback on that plan. Look through it, load it up, give it a go for 4 weeks, and then let me know how you do. And everybody, again, thank you so much for all the feedback that you give episode to episode. It's really awesome. I really enjoy just jumping on here, putting these long form content together for everybody, being able to tag people down the road when they have now questions with strength training. I'm going to be able to send them this episode and send them this information, and hopefully it helps them out. So again, thank you very much. Make sure you give this a thumbs up or a comment. Let me know what you got out of it. And again, I want everybody to stay healthy, stay safe, keep balancing that life 1 mile at a time, and I'll catch you all on the next one.